Welcome to the Party Lines, where we look at the big issues, some political and some not so political, and address them from both sides of the aisle. Tensions between Canada and the United States continue to make headlines after President Donald Trump suggested Canada should compensate the U.S. for costs related to battling Canadian wildfires. But should it be the other way around? Take a look.
We got to stop the fires up there. If we can help them, we'll help them. But maybe they should pay us some damages or something. I've never remembered this happening. Over the last 4 or 5 years, you saw it starting to take place.
Canada should be paying us for the smoke related to the fires. That's a laugh. If anything, we should be paying them. I'll tell you why. First, let's look at where these fires are. Started in June, now impacting municipal areas where people are in Canada and the United States. They're in the middle of nowhere, in the far north of Canada, in the boreal forest. Riddle me this, Donald. How can we demand damages from Canada for naturally occurring fires in the middle of nowhere, hundreds of thousands of square miles, beyond any sort of management ability? You can't rake that land. Sorry.
Well, very, very practical American answer there. And I think that's what's being lost in here. These aren't being started by people. Like California had issues where they had fire starters. There's firebugs out there causing issues, which is disgusting, first of all. Second of all, if you want to call it, a global warming or whatever you want to call it, it's lightning strikes. It's like there's natural reasons these are occurring. Natural, whether you want to say climate change or not, but like lightnings cause fires. Lack of rain causes fires.
Yeah, and I think that's why with this administration, it's just like it's a head scratcher. Like every single time you turn the news and the kind of ridiculous stuff that he says, because if you're looking at it, like, would we go back to say, no, you should be compensating us? Like you should be compensating for the speed at which you're making the ozone layer diminished and what you're doing to speed global warming. Like it's so ridiculous that once you put these into that kind of context, it becomes so much larger. And then really when you look at allies and the nitpicking, and when you look at something like this, when you're vulnerable and instead of coming to someone's aid, you're only furthering that awful rhetoric where you've got far right people that actually believe him. And like we had talked about previous about the certain governors coming to his aid to agree with him. So thank goodness that there's actual, a scientific community coming out to speak on the behalf of everyone to say, actually, when you look at the science, that's not how this works.
And look at where it is. I mean, for that clip, for our friends in the States, if you look at the majority, and as he said, I hosted some folks from the States last weekend, like the majority of Canadians are along the border. That's where we live. As soon as you get north, it's not habitable, or it's Indigenous communities. It's, even past north and on the Ontario side, Thunder Bay, etc. I feel terrible for the folks up there, but this isn't being started in a community where there's a rogue fire. And, I think we're very well aware of what fires do. And especially, I'll say in cottage country in Ontario, there's, fire bans is a regular thing. You got to watch the fire ban. And if someone didn't see it and starts fire, your neighbor will tell you, hey, there's a fire ban on. Like, this is a we thing we need to do as a group to protect stuff. But these are naturally occurring in Northern Ontario, and we need to fix them together. And it's not like you can have these water bombers everywhere, like consistently, and we're also at the will of where the rain is, right? Like, so if the rain doesn't go in the right area, or if it doesn't come down enough, it's not going to fix it.
Yeah,
exactly.
As we saw with the wind's direction. And that's why there's some
The winds is incredible. What it did, if you actually watch it and to watch a fire map and what in the smoke, like, when you say, oh, it wasn't near a community, it wasn't until it was.
Right.
And it moved very quick.
BC knows this too well, just because of the carryover from the fires from the American side. So for people that live out in these communities that are so affected by the wildfires that happen within the United States, that's why it just seems so ridiculous.
It's horrible. This has been politicized from the standpoint of like, we need to have a discussion. And I think we need to understand that this is not going away. We'll always have fires. We'll always do our best to try to,
controlled burns.
You got it.
Yeah.
And there's nothing, there's only so many things you can do. You can't prevent everything. But the fact we've politicized this and talking, in our previous clip, we talked about a previous show. Sorry, we talked about, he was talking about tariffs and because of fires. I thought, oh my gosh, here we go. Like, I get it when you're negotiating a bridge more so, and I don't agree, but I understand when you're negotiating a bridge. But when you're bringing up wildfires and slapping
And
tariffs
it
on
loses credibility.
oh my
That's
God.
why this administration loses credibility time and time again. And so, yeah. But coming up, there's reports that the American officials have met with Canadian separatist groups, and those are raising new questions about diplomacy and sovereignty. So we'll discuss that right after the break.
You say yes, I say no on the party line, so let's go.
Welcome back. Diplomacy often involves meeting with a wide range of voices, but reports of American officials engaging with Canadian separatist groups have sparked debate over whether those meetings are appropriate. Take a look.
Would the United States ever support an independent Alberta?
The directions and the guidance are very clear. The vote that's going to happen in October is a decision for the people of Alberta. If it's going to be influenced by governments, it's going to be influenced by the government of Alberta and by the federal government and maybe the other provinces, but not by the United States government.
You've criticized Canadians for interfering in U.S. politics. If it's true that U.S. State Department officials are meeting with an unelected, unappointed separatist group, why shouldn't Canadians see that as foreign interference?
Having a meeting with somebody, I've met with all kinds of Canadians across all kinds of political persuasion. That's my job. Donald Trump and the administration hasn't given me a pot of money that says, hey, Pete, if there's an interesting election or a by-election, here's $50,000, go spend it. Plus, you don't even know what they said. Maybe they discouraged him from running a separatist campaign.
Albertans would love to know what was said in that meeting. We'd love to start by knowing who he was meeting with.
I can tell you what most likely happened. They listened. I don't know who he met with, and I've gotten clear direction from Washington that an election in Alberta on separatism, that's for the people of Alberta and Canada to decide, not for the U.S. government to get involved with.
Well, I think we're already going to be off to a little rocky one on this one based on our feedback during the clip. But give me your thoughts there, because you were itching. You're itching during that clip.
It's just so funny that they want to say they'll listen to anyone. Well, no, they haven't been really good at trade talks or other negotiations or moving forward with other topics. But when you talk about, separatists and having this referendum, a lot of that movement has been funded by some American groups that have come over and have been really pushing this agenda. So if you look at Danielle Smith lowering that threshold, if you look at someone like Lutnick that's saying, oh, well, we'll speak to anyone, all of a sudden that becomes really scary for the rest of Canada when they're talking about us as the 51st state, when you're talking about our sovereignty, all of a sudden it does seem like, okay, they're more favorable for certain meetings than others. And so to me, I really want to see who's going to come out against separatists. You don't really see anyone talking. Prime Minister Harper, he's kind of come out and he's kind of leading the charge. But where is everybody else? Everyone else seems so quiet when it comes to this referendum.
I don't have problems with them listening. If you can actively listen to anyone, because they're elected official, when we come up and talk about Mondami later on the show, just because elected official doesn't mean you know what you're talking about. And especially in New York, but we'll get back to that. Listening is one thing. They've entertained a few meetings, and I guess I look at it from the standpoint, I don't have a problem with them listening. That being said, I'm going to go the other way and say, what if it was us, Texas talking to us about separation? How would that fly on the other side? And I'm kind of looking at that. If we said, hey, we're just listening to Texas, they might, they're not really happy with you folks, and who knows?
We're just listening
to
take them on as another province.
I think
that would be a whole different conversation.
I'm just saying, as absurd as that sounds, I'm just saying, maybe we're going to tie you and Alberta together, and there you go. But listening is one thing, actively participating is another. I think we've also done it from the standpoint, we are independently doing outreach as provinces. And that's what we've done. Danielle Smith is going to visit. Ford is going to visit. We're doing our own outreach. We have a federal government that is supposed to be our representative. We have ambassadors. We have trade contingents. We have, and I understand, not saying Premier Ford does have, the province of Ontario, I should say, here, every province has it, but here we have straight ties to Pennsylvania. Mm-hmm. We do equal trade with them. Mm-hmm. So you have to do your outreach, but that's more state to province. The fact that we've been going federally and bypassing our government, even though I don't disagree with some of the things that are being said, that's an issue. But I still go back
it's a bad look, though. Either way, it's a bad look.
It is a bad look. You're not going to control the separatists. The separatists are not that separatism party or a group in Alberta, is not a defined political group. So they're meeting with stakeholders. It doesn't really upset me that much. because they are listening. Now, if we get to the meat of it and we find out more, that's a different story.
And it'd be a good thing if they were our ally at the moment, but they seem not to be, and we're in an economic war. So the fact that, they are having those kind of
I
conversations.
like what Pete Oakster said.
You know?
He said, maybe they're telling them it's not a good idea, though. We don't know what they're doing. And he's sat in the seats before. He's been a listener before. So I tend to agree with what he's saying. I honestly think listening is not a problem, because you might help the Canadian, maybe helping the Canadians and dissuading and saying, you guys don't really want to do that.
Well, I hope so. But a lot of the rhetoric that he has when he goes on a lot of our shows is negative towards Canada. So
it is, but he wasn't there.
Yeah, that's what it's so funny about that. That's why I'm suspicious,
I know you're
Jeff.
twitching. You're twitching.
That's why I'm suspicious. Well, coming up, New York City's mayor says that the Prime Minister of Israel could be arrested if he visits the city under the international warrant. So more after the break.
You say yes, I say no on the party line, so let's go.
Welcome back. International politics and local leadership collided this week after New York City Mayor Zoran Mamdani was asked whether he would act on an international criminal court warrant if Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu visited New York. Take a look.
Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is perhaps planning to visit New York for the UN General Assembly. You pledged during your campaign and after you won to order his arrest to comply with the International Criminal Court warrant. What will happen if he comes in September?
Look, I believe that Prime Minister Netanyahu belongs in The Hague. He's a war criminal who has been charged by the International Criminal Court. And what you will find is that is an opinion that is held by many purely because of what his actions have wrought over these last many years. I've also said that I will follow the laws that we have here in New York City because I believe that there's an importance in following the law as a leader who presides over our city, and that's something that I plan to do.
Meaning? I'm sorry, I don't understand what that means.
Meaning that whatever the law allows me to do in New York City, that's what we will do, but we won't be writing our own laws to that end.
What does the law allow you to do?
That's an active conversation with our legal department in seeing what the prospects are we have here in our municipality. However, what we've seen at the national level is a desire sometimes to write your own laws, to go outside of the bounds of legality. That's not something we have an interest in.
I mean, normally when people come to a UN General Assembly, they're granted a sort of amnesty because it is the seat of the United Nations. Is that what you're thinking that you'll honor?
So just to complete that clip, he did actually say, we will arrest him when he comes to the city. With no authority, no anything. He runs a city. I mean, the man, for those who've watched the show previously know what I think of this man. He had to walk it back today and say, we can't arrest him. Like, what I've said is nonsense. I don't think this man knows how to operate a car, never mind a city. So he's walked that back and said, we won't arrest him now. So although he campaigned on it, and now he's speaking about, well, I wasn't talking about Benjamin Netanyahu, I was talking about anyone in the national court system. You can't do anything. You're the mayor of a city. You're mayor of the city who makes more than the state governor, the president, the vice president. Like, this man makes 300 and change as a socialist. So first of all, I want to put that out. I know it's not really affiliated clip, but this man is in a great position as far as his economics goes, and he doesn't understand the role of what he's supposed to be doing. So I'm going to throw to you because I could go on a rant here for way too long.
I think no matter what, he would have had to come out and do something in this stance. Because, like you said, he campaigned on this, and so
he campaigned on a lot of nonsense.
But at the same time, for his supporters, if he didn't come out and do something, Jeff, like even if he doesn't have the teeth behind it, even if it really looks bad on the international stage, at his point, he's looking at the support that got him elected there within the city of New York City, and so for all of a sudden, for that prime minister to have to come into the city after he's already said that he's going to hold him to account. And like you said, it was kind of like empty. It was an empty promise.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, knowing that he was going to be coming to the United Nations, that's one of those like amnesty that they have. So if they are traveling there and if they are going there,
United Nations, like, what are you talking about?
Right.
This is not the U.S.
And that would be a deterrent so that anybody coming in, but again, like if they're hosting this and they're allowing someone that has those kind of outstanding warrants, I think that's a bigger, larger conversation, but that's not for him to take on.
Well, kudos for Mamdani to actually finally acknowledge October 7th as well. So there's a big thing there, but nothing he says or does is logical. Everything he campaigned on, okay, we're going to free transit. It costs more now. It doesn't cost less. We're balancing the budget. Well, he's got a proposed budget that, works, but by the way, wait for the pensions in the next few months. We're going to cause more terrors there because we just borrowed the money.
But I think there's a lot of people that find hope in what he is doing.
Yeah, but it's destruction. It's great to have hope. Have hope in something real.
But
There's
the social
nothing
programs
real.
that he is putting in place, and he is structuring it that way because there is such a fine line between the have and have-nots. So at the same
Sure, and they're
time,
going to have a lot of have-nots once the people paying the taxes leave there, which they've seen already. Kathy Hochul has outright said, "Hey, folks, we yelled at you to leave. You're in Florida now. We told you to go to Florida. Can you please come back?" New York is a mess, an absolute mess, and it's not going to. This isn't going to change. We're going to keep sticking. It's going to keep. Tell me a place where the socialism worked.
Like, do you want me?
I really want one.
And I feel like when it's talking,
I'm not trying to put you on the spot here. I'm just saying, like,
if you're talking about programs and you're talking about kids having lunch programs, or if you're talking about housing or assistance, I'm going to say that's
those are socialist programs. Socialism is a governance model. Where does it work? It doesn't.
And he's trying to bring New York City into that lens to
we're
bring
do something
them up
that's
from
never
poverty.
worked before, and you're going to figure it out.
And that does bring a lot of people hope. So even if something like this, and I don't agree with the clip like this, because he again saying promises that he couldn't keep, but again, he did walk it back. So,
he's going to walk everything back.
It's a lot of political spin all the time that we find, right? After the break, Canada's premiers are taking another step towards breaking down the internal trade barriers by expanding direct-to-consumer alcohol sales across provincial borders.
You say yes, I say no on the party line, so let's go.
Welcome back. Canada's premiers say they're making it easier for breweries and distilleries to sell directly to consumers across provincial lines as part of a broader effort to reduce internal trade barriers and strengthen the domestic economy. Take a look.
In light of Donald Trump's threat to tariff Canadian alcohol exports to the U.S., the premiers of 9 provinces have announced a landmark deal that will allow interprovincial alcohol sales from distillers and brewers directly to consumers. The new rules will allow companies to sell directly to consumers outside their home province. The provinces include BC, Alberta, and Saskatchewan in the west, Manitoba and Ontario, as well as New Brunswick, PEI, Nova Scotia, and Newfoundland and Labrador.
Interesting there from the beer perspective, that we're showing all the beer, and we have wine regions in this country as well. But these are I kind of hear like you did it to yourself in my head. I always sing this song because these are things we've created for ourselves. And this protectionism internally. So the fact that I can't remember how many years that I've had conversations about internal provincial trade barriers. So great to see this happening. There's still like, this isn't all kumbaya. Like the taxes and the rest of it are still going to be on it. You can just get it now. It's not like they can actually ship direct, but all those little taxes and stuff are still not going to make it cheaper for, your independent craft brewer to ship from, Ontario to Saskatchewan, for example.
Well, when I saw it, I thought, about time. You know what I mean? Like, it's one of those
time years ago.
Yeah, it's an easy fix. And if anything, we can thank, Donald Trump for, it's this unity. It's like coming to look at ourselves to see, how do we build ourselves up? How do we at least make it more stronger for our own economy here within Canada? And instead of it being, different regulations, whether we're talking about alcohol or booze, or we're talking about even just like medical. Or licensing.
This gets pressed because it's sexy, right?
Right.
Booze is related to most people. There's, it's a common, last year when Anthony was here, we were talking about different things going to China of crops that we didn't even know existed.
Right.
It's not discussed as much because this affects everyone. And I don't even know, this was talked before Trump? It's just, he probably, expedited the conversation to get it done. And we're still talking years in the making.
Right, because it's so siloed. It's all that, where's my
Well, there's protectionism. We have protectionism between our provinces.
Yeah, and
right, we're protecting our industries here, so we don't want to give that up. I know you want to give that up, but we don't want to give this up. And it doesn't work as a whole. And I understand the mentality, right? For those who are elected, our job is to protect our constituents. So what's good for one constituent may not be good for another constituent.
Right.
So opening one thing up might hurt somebody else. I get that. But the fact that it's taking this long for us to tear down international provincial barriers is puzzling to me.
But it's good for economic driver, especially when it comes to certifications. Let's hope that those kind of things are eliminated, that we can go ahead and transfer even credits, things like that shouldn't even be the case, that we've seen years here within Canada
Yeah.
that you scratch your head, it doesn't make sense. It's not like they're coming from another country
Yep.
and that they're not able to work. You're coming from a different province. And so I hope that that really drives, especially for young people at home, that you can stay within this country and that you have more opportunities because we are eliminating these. It's just the speed at which it's going to
and
happen.
it affects everything. You know, I was previously on the board of a large financial institution, and the interprovincial stuff was troubling. We had to do things to go federal that were outside because we didn't trust the provincial scalability of things.
And that's the problem.
And I'm like, this
Yeah,
is this is
investing,
large financial services, and financial
Right.
services, aren't a provincial thing, right? Like it's not like we have these special things. I mean, we have different regulators and stuff like that look
And
at
that's
things.
that hesitation from privatization to help fund things like a pipeline, because we see all too often that it gets tied up in the courts if you're not having
Yeah.
everybody in.
And you
to
see it
have
right
their
now.
say.
Wab
Yeah.
Canoe came out and said, "Hey, I'd be happy to have a pipeline go to Sarnia." And Scott Moe now is, I don't know if I want to go through Saskatchewan, right? So,
Right.
he had said our Indigenous community in the North would love this. So it's, we have different, and I understand Scott Moe's got his own stance as far as Wab has his own stance, but
It's a crucial point in time.
it is. And
Yeah.
we can't just do things for a province. We're Canadian first. That's the way my mentality is.
Absolutely.
anyways.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us on the Party Lines. We'll see you again next week.
You say yes, I say no. You say stop.